This world can often leave us feeling disengaged and uninspired, especially when we don't have the little joys that we used to have when we were kids. School and work were just not made for us. They push one type of productivity upon the masses with little room for individuality. And as creative people, we adapt to this, at least for a while. But eventually, I've found as a creative person, I lose energy in my everyday life and I start to feel drained, and I have nothing else to give to my friends and family, my projects, and my work. How many of us as adults have given up our creative pursuits, even though they bring us so much joy and energy? Why do we do this when they were so valuable to us when we were younger? Well, I thought that creativity was mostly for children. I thought creativity was a waste of my precious time, and I thought that I was too old to learn something new. Number one, creativity is not just for children. We would have no type of innovation without creativity. I call creative people the problem solvers of the world. Without thinking outside the box, there would be no innovation. There would be no new technology. Not only is creativity for adults, it is vital for adults and society at large. Number two, our creative projects are a waste of time. When we give energy to our creative projects, we actually create more time. And here's how I found that work in my own life. When I go and set aside time to be creative and fill up my cup, it actually gives me more energy to go and spend doing other things, such as my schoolwork. So many times when we're burned out with life, we think the solution is to cut back, which sometimes that is the case. But I've found in my own life that the answer was actually to add. I found the most comfort in adding things that gave me energy rather than taking away things and adding in things that wouldn't give me energy. For example, I didn't need to take away a class in order to just sit around and watch TV for another 9 hours a week. This activity, while sometimes appropriate, doesn't give me the type of energy that a creative pursuit would. Number three is that we feel like it's too late to learn something new. It is never too late to embark on a creative project or a new creative skill. If we don't put a lot of pressure on ourselves, it can actually be really inspiring. As human beings, we are happy when we are making progress towards something. It's not actually the success or being good at something that makes us happy. It's the incremental gains that we get when we're learning something or conquering something new. There are so many resources now where you can learn whatever creative pursuit you want to learn, and no one said that you had to be good at something. You just want to tap into that creative spirit. Sometimes we can even use old skills in order to help us learn new skills. When I was in high school, I did speech and debate, I did theater, and I did choir. And now I'm doing YouTube, which is definitely not the same. I had to learn editing, market research, better presentation skills, lighting, filming. But what I did have is those basic foundational skills of presenting and organizing. And I even did some sketch writing in high school that have helped me to write my outlines now. You can pick something that is adjacent to something you already know how to do in order to lower that barrier to entry for you and make it seem not so daunting. How can we as creatives tap into our creative side and start nurturing our hobbies in order to make our lives more exciting again? Well, I'm going to go through 5 things that I have learned over these last couple of years about nurturing my creative side and how to make it more accessible. Number one is to think about what you loved doing as a kid. When I was a child, I loved to sing, and more importantly, I loved to make up my own songs and write my own lyrics, which reminded me that I love to write and I love creating something out of thin air in order to entertain people. When you were younger, there were probably things that lit you up as well. Since our hobbies as children sometimes don't fit into our adult lives, that brings me to number two. Make your creativity plan fit into your adult life. I used to love doing plays and musicals when I was in high school. school. But when I got to college, I was taking 18, 19 credits. And it was way too much for me to go to rehearsal for 3 hours every day. But what I could do is join an improv team that met twice a week for 2 hours. That was just 4 hours a week, and I didn't have to memorize any scripts. Now, that was obviously a very convenient situation for me since I was on a college campus, but here are some other examples. If you used to love singing, maybe see if your local church or maybe a local group in your community does performances. You can even go to open mic nights, sometimes at coffee shops and bars, and you can perform songs there. Don't put pressure on yourself to be a professional at something if you really do not have the time to commit to that. On an even lighter note, if you loved singing, you could just practice some fun drills that you found on YouTube every day, or maybe give vocal lessons to people in your neighborhood. It's not about being excellent, it's about bringing back that joy. And if you still feel like you won't get anything out of these creative pursuits, that brings me to number 3. Find something that will give you marketable skills that you can even put on a resume. For example, maybe you love stories and you love to create things and you're on the tech side. You can work on your coding skills and start to code an app or a video game. If you love visual design, you can work on a website or helping people you know with their own website to make it more aesthetically pleasing. I see this channel as giving me so many skills I can apply to the job market. I'm studying marketing and accounting right now, and I see this YouTube channel as helping me get my foot in the door in terms of market research, content creation, and branding. All these things are going to give me hard skills that I can then put on a resume and will help me when I go into the job market. I never know if even these skills could put me apart in order to get a really cool part-time job or an internship. But if you still feel like creativity isn't worth your time, that brings me to number 4. Pick something that could potentially make you money. During 2020, I was in high school and I was basically losing my mind being inside all the time. And so I decided to start an Etsy. And on this Etsy, I made jewelry and sold it. And I also painted little pots for plants. And this definitely didn't bring me a ton of money. I'm definitely not a millionaire selling tiny little pots on Etsy, but it did bring in some money. And I think if I treated it more like a business, it could have really been scalable. The furniture flipping teacher on YouTube has an amazing story. She was a teacher, and during the summer, she paid off her student loans by flipping furniture and making something that was worn out and used into something that had a brand new life. Now she is continuing that journey. They have a B&B and she has a great source of income for herself. Now, none of these tips are going to be useful if you can't even find the inspiration to wake up in the morning. And so that brings me to number 5, which is to make your environment inspiring. Our environments significantly impact our moods, energy, and productivity levels. And for creative people, I think this is even more so. We love things to look beautiful, to create things that are amazing and things that reflect our personality. I'm going to be an RA in about a month, and I started planning my dorm room a couple months ago. That's just to say that I take decorating very seriously, and you should too. I love my twinkle lights, my candles, my minimalistic yet bright style. Not only is this going to lift your mood, but it's also going to get you inspired in order to motivate you to be more creative. Set aside time to do the things that you actually love and take back the energy and inspiration from your life. We have this narrative that once you decide what your job is, that's basically your life and the other things don't matter so much. But that's not true. Your life is not just about your job, especially if you don't feel like it aligns with your creative personality. I have to infuse creative hobbies in order to start feeling better. I was in such a rut in the fall. One of the reasons why I think that happened was because I gave up my creative pursuits, focused solely on academics, and the joy that I felt from those activities were completely gone. Set boundaries with people in your life and let them know how important this time is to you. They will actually love that you have a lot more energy and joy to spread to them and all the things that you do. Watch your consuming to creating ratio. I find if I spend spend too much time watching TV or reading a book, it really makes me feel kind of down about myself, and it makes me feel like my days are blending together. But when I create things, I get this undescribable sense of joy, and that can help me balance that feeling out so I can enjoy my TV time while also creating things for myself. You were made perfectly creative, so don't run away from it. The world is counting on you to keep your creative side nurtured and loved. I love you, I believe in you, and I'll see you in the next one.